hello, and it's a pleasure to host this panel. This panel stands exactly between you and lunch, right? So I know that's a pressure on us, but we'll do our best to try and make it worthwhile for you. This session is going to be about footfalls. So in large times in the retail business, a whole lot of papers have been written, research has been done on how to manage people who have come into shop, how to manage customers once you have them, how to do the back end and all of that. But very little has been really done about how do you improve footfalls. I mean, if you talk to multiple CEOs, and there are some very senior people here from the retail business, what would they not give to get that one more person into their mall or into their outlet or any of those? So the primary purpose of existence itself is people who walk in. So this discussion is going to be about what people do, what different brands do to make that happen. I'm not going to introduce the panelists once again. You know them already. So interesting to know that three of you have names beginning with A. So nice to know that. Okay, so let's first talk about what we mean by footfalls and what are the efforts that some of you do. Maybe we should begin with a 130-year-old brand, Triumph. Very nice to have you over here. Can you tell us what you do about building footfalls to your retail outlets and to your business in general?
Thank you. So 138 years to be precise.
Corrected.
So I think the first and foremost thing when you think about footfalls is who your target consumer is. I think that's really important. And that's how you actually understand what to do to bring them on board. And I'll talk about, two parts. So obviously, the lines of online and offline are blurring, but there are different strategies to, counter each consumer segment. When we talk about offline, I think, again, it's broken into two parts. Your existing customer and then the new customer acquisition. So for our existing customers, of course, we have a loyalty program. And I think with technology, it is becoming more and more, fruitful, more and more engaging, and I think a little more easier than the past to really, target these people. And with technology, you can personalize your messaging. You know what they are buying, when they are buying, where they are based. So I think that helps a lot in terms of personalizing our messaging through artificial intelligence. And I think the real challenge is how often you bring them back. And with a brand like us, it's also like need-based, but with a lot of innovation, with a lot of creativity. How you keep telling the consumer to come back. We do a lot of education and engagement because through our surveys we understand, and this is like very surprising because more than 60% of women actually do not know the right size of their bras. And the thing is that body types keeps changing. After a certain age, you need to come back and see what's the right size for you. So I think a lot of educational stuff goes into that, in creating that awareness, creating that education. And from a perspective of new customer acquisition, again, you need to talk about the brand. You need to tell people your right target consumer that what you stand for, and keep that messaging going again and again. One of the very creative things that really works for us, what we've done is a bra fit challenge. So basically, we incentivize a consumer if they know the right size of the bra. And that brings a lot of footfall in terms of that intrigue that, okay, it is very engaging, and a lot of women are surprised to find out that they don't know the right size. So we do this activation across various formats, not just our own stores, but the likes of Shopper Stop, Lifestyle. And here what happens is, you're targeting competition as well, because you're not really telling the consumer selling your product, but you're just trying to say that, okay, this is an engagement activity. We give out freebies and stuff like that. So it is really engaging. And the really good part is that for the consumer, there is no sale. For the consumer, there is like, something that they really keep in their mind, that, the education, or I didn't know the right size. So I think a lot of these strategies of engagement and experience really help in getting the traffic.
That's very interesting. He spoke about a bra fit challenge, and I hope that bra fit challenge added to your profits. Okay, from there, let's move on to another segment. We move from, let's say, the upper half to the lower half. Let's talk about liberty shoes. What are some things that you've done which you're really proud of in terms of your measures to build footfalls to your stores, your own stores, or even multi-brands or any which way?
So definitely, I think footfall in today's competitive world is the most exciting thing which we have to work upon. And other than engaging with the loyalty programs and how to come back, I think for us, retail experience and the product are the two main pillars which we work upon, because footwear was more like a need-based category, and we have to transform into a fashion base so that you can keep on coming back for different products. So introducing newer product categories, introducing newer styles, fashion for them to see a reason to come back again. I think that's the key thing which we work upon, and how you start making retail experience more engaging, so that they find a different experience at online shopping and at retail. So what are the activities we are doing so that like a salesman talking to them, give them the relevant answers, training them, so that which they can't really do. So there are almost 70-80% of the people who don't really know their even shoe sizes, to be very honest, and right fit. So we encourage them that if they come
So
there,
that's the similarity between bras and shoes. So they
absolutely
don't know their size.
And when the salesmen give the right fit, they can try it on, walk few steps, and doing that personalized consumer interface with the salesman. I think that's what brings most of the customer to the store. While we need to keep on talking about the various conveniences we can give them. And idea is not to switch from online to offline and offline to online. It is how do you make the ecosystem so that the customer, once they know everything, they can do the repeat purchase at online, or coming back to the store. And for new products and new styles, they come to the store. So how you create an ecosystem so that both benefit from each other.
Thank you. I think both of them broadly touched upon product being one, experience being in the other, and the third being engagement. And you spoke about a very interesting thing that you did for engagement. Let's move on to brand Madame. 3 decades old in India, I learned today, and we have someone from the promoter family itself. So would you like to tell us what is something that you're really proud of in terms of an activity that you did for traffic?
See, to be true, just building on what both of them said, first thing we did was awareness. You know, you're getting footfall every day, you're running so many stores, you are there available in the trade, you're available online. So with the online structure, you understand you have these matrices built into your Shopify's and the OMS structure that you're using. You understand the organic clicks, inorganic clicks, abundant rate, this, that, and you have a matrix to track it, what's happening, actually who's coming to your web store. With offline, what happens? A lot of places we give a footfall counter to the security guard to say, okay, you count. For example, with a store like mine, or probably a Triumph, for example, so would husband-wife walking into the store would mean 2 footfalls or 1 footfall?
Yep.
So how do you convert conversion? Because and when a husband and wife walks into the store, so one is the customer and one is the consumer. By customer I mean who's paying, the consumer the consumer I mean who is actually buying for herself or for gifting. So first thing we did that we actually are proud of, we got our matrices right. We started getting aware about what's happening around. My DSR today, the day-end DSR has a footfall count along with the sales, markdown, etc., etc. So this is one thing that we started tracking, because that's not imperative. With this competition happening, every day new brands are opening up. With D2C, opening their wing, customers are tend to experiment here and there. So it becomes very important to really understand what's going on. For example, I was at one of the stores yesterday, and I said, okay, one store, I said, okay, why are your slates are plateaued? So there's no footfall in the market. Okay, I said, okay. I went to the store next door and the store on the right. I said, okay, what's your footfalls? So these are so making ourselves aware is very important, because we talk a lot of jargon as per se about footfalls and this and that. So we've recently introduced a technology which actually tracks the footfall in genders and in age segments, which is coming into your stores, and we are marrying it with what these stores are doing it manually. And so on that, we have reached about an 87% accuracy, which is again far from what we want to achieve, but still it's okay. So the feed is still reliable. So this is one thing probably as a brand we have done, and a lot of other brands are also experimenting to actually get to a genuine information on which we have to work forward.
I'm super happy that you're focusing a lot on the metrics of it. Otherwise, generally people say traffic is less, traffic is more. very often when you put sales pressure on people, they tend to say traffic in a year. So it's good to have these metrics, and I'm very happy that you're doing that. And the difference between the consumer and the customer, that's a massive difference in terms of which should be counted as footfall, etc. Okay, so all three of you are retailers. Let's jump over to somebody who's housing you all. So here is the gentleman from Amanora Mall. First of all, congratulations on your, what shall I say, restaging,
Thank you.
rebranding of Amanora itself. It's a fantastic looking mall right now. So what do you do about your footfalls? I know that you're housed in a township by itself, right? You're an ecosystem by yourself. What do you do about getting footfalls?
See, as we always say, for malls, the footfalls is never a challenge. Is the quality footfalls is the bigger challenge. One. Second is in terms of like retaining or giving that freshness or giving one more reason. So like create certain type of things which gives one more reason for them to visit the mall. That is one of the other things which regularly increases the footfall. Like similarly, like-minded events when you do, which again creates the thing. When you do certain food festivals, and there are other things which is there is more of partnership and collaboration with the in-house partners when you want to do it. When they open, like when a new store is opening, you really do a lot amount of activities again. And similarly, when a particular category, maybe for shoes or anything like that, you host a festival, then you do a lot of other certain activities which creates that one more reason for them to visit mall again.
So how do you make your mall different? I mean, everybody would be doing events, everybody would be doing stuff like, for example, to engage their consumers and in relationship with the retailers that are sitting here, right? So they would have to come, they would have to collaborate with all the malls. So what is different about Amanora? What have you done?
There are two things which are there. Is one is the offering in terms of the product mix which we have, and second is our food offering. That is one of the key things which we rule again in terms of our food offering is a very vast, and the design again helps a lot amount of it. We have a good amount of open space, and Pune supports that. So food becomes a very good element for us. And again, if you have the right the brands which the catchment is looking forward, it really plays a big.
So we all do understand the role that food plays, even creating footfalls for malls like this. So excellent. So the second question I have is, we spoke about footfall generation and we said there is product, there is experience, there is engagement, and doing things which are in consonance with what the target consumer is thinking. Now we all do efforts, and the efforts take resources in terms of time, money, whatever. So how do you say something is working, something is not working? Because it's very often these ideas tend to be pet ideas. I mean, even including, let's say, the bra fit challenge. Whoever is the owner of the idea would say that's a great idea. How would you say that's a success or otherwise?
So I think first is like, what is the objective, and what is the target? So there are a lot of metrics that we basically
Tell us a few.
see.
What are the metrics you use?
So for example, what is the increase in footfall? Of course, that's a straight given, because if you run any campaign, how do you track if it is increasing the footfall or not, both for online and offline? The second metric is conversion, because even if you increase your footfall, if people are not buying, then maybe you are targeting the right cohort. And that's why in the beginning I said the most important thing is that you know your consumer first, and then that's how you create your strategy to target that consumer. So I think these are a couple of things, but it's the usual stuff, what you track in retail in terms of whether your average transaction values are increasing, whether your basket size is increasing or not. If you've launched a new product and you're doing a campaign around that, whether that's increasing or not. But with technology, I think these are the basic stuff, but with technology, there is so much more you can do. Just a couple of examples. So how you integrate technology with, traffic coming into your stores. So we do, for example, Google My Business. So there are geo-targeted campaigns. So for example, I want to target Phoenix Mall in Lower Parel. I want people to go into my store there. So you do your digital campaigns, you do your geo-targeted campaigns, you exactly know what's going on, how many people are going into that store. You integrate your online and offline, with your even your website, your D2C website, how you integrate your store locator campaigns. If you're promoting your store locator, and it gives you so many metrics that how many people clicked, how many people actually called your store. So I think with technology, it's becoming much easier to actually track.
I'll park you there, because we'll come back to technology, because we're going to have a segment on technology. I'm just at the moment talking about the metrics to measure the efforts that we do to generate footfalls. So coming to you about shoes, you did mention that there is experience and there is engagement. But the effort that you do, I'm sure you do a whole lot of efforts outside of the retailer, outside of your outlet as well as the malls to generate people to get into Liberty. So how do you measure something like that? Because at the end of the day, there is one moolah sitting right on top, and we need to figure out, is it worth doing or not? So how do you make that call?
So definitely, like, various metrics sir spoke about, I think those are very important. But as a more marketeer, I feel that we need to do things consistently, keep on measuring, but should not get disheartened, because today the consumer is, spoiled with lots of choices, and you need to keep on making effort. While generating ROI is very important, but brand building is something which takes years to build a brand, and brands are not built overnight or over a season or over a campaign. So I think we need to continue to keep on investing in that area, and make some good space in the consumer mind. So I would say, while reviewing data is very important, but getting disheartened, if we were to say I have done a campaign and I have promoted a shoe, and show me the sale tomorrow, I don't think so it's a right approach, and we should constantly keep on doing it, because after 3 or 4 times the consumer is encouraged. Maybe the result comes after 3 months, because the person is not
On
buying
this
shoes
issue,
every day.
I'll stop you there for a moment because I want to learn, and I'm sure many of our audience will also want to learn. All of us believe that consistency is important. All of us believe that we have to invest and ultimately consumer will come. But there's one man sitting on top called the CFO who keeps saying, sorry, you put in the money, where's the result today? How do you answer him?
Okay, so definitely there's a budget. Say, for example, the shoes cannot be sold without laces, and you can't really find the relevance of laces. So you say marketing is a budget, and you allocate whether 5% or 7%, depending on how you want to say. And they say this is for the long-term goal. And I think brand is a great asset which you build towards the end of the year. It's a value creator, which probably you'll see the value in 5 years or the 10 years, and not probably instantly. While there is nothing wrong to measure, but measuring in a medium to a long-term perspective is probably a better matrix to follow, and tell the finance guy that you are building a goodwill which will be reaping benefit in long term.
Thank you. That's a good lesson for all of us. We'll try to follow that. We hope our CFOs believe. Okay, coming back to Madam. So you were the one who first spoke about metric in this panel. So since you already have metrics in one form, how do you convince yourself? Because you are the promoter, so it's your money.
I have a CFO as well.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you convince those folks on, or how do you say that something is working or not?
Yeah, so I'll expand what Anupamji just said, or I'll expand it a little further. So basically, over the last, especially post-COVID, what we did is we broke our marketing budget into two parts. So one is the hygiene. For example, when we talk about online web stores, your SEO is a hygiene. You can never get a ROAS over an hygiene thing, because that is important, relevant, that's the investment you're doing on the brand. And post that, whatever you do other than hygiene is your sales promotion or your footfall movement or whatever for retention, attraction, new acquisition campaigns. So what as a brand we did, especially post-COVID, was we know the kind of understanding we had. So we broke the budgets into two parts. So one we put as a hygiene, which we keep evaluating in every budget that what is the hygiene. Probably you want to do something really big about the brand, for example, a celebrity, for example. So a celebrity can never be put into a sales promotion budget. It will always be hygiene, for example. So first getting all these places right. And then second, what we do and a lot of other brands do is understand the duration, what you want to measure. For example, an online campaign, which is direct, which is actually, call to action to your web store. Probably for a company like me, I say 48 hours is what I have to measure that campaign. Beyond 48 hours, it is useless for me to measure that campaign. Post that, jo bhi hoga, hoga. For the offline stores, okay, we say, okay, we'll have to extend it to 7 days. We need to at least have one weekend in that entire ecosystem to actually find the the relevance of that campaign. Or this is how we convince our CFO also. And when we talk about the budget, that okay, this is hygiene. This is one, say for example, 1%, for example, or 2% is something hygiene which you cannot negate, because I usually give an example of Paytm today, for example. It was a lifeline for North India. In 2 days, people forgot about it because they stopped knocking on the door. For them, it was hygiene and not sales promotion campaign. So this is what happens. So the brand investment is separate and the sales promotion is separate. And we always track those things on the sales promotion budget and not on the hygiene.
Got it. So that's great to know that there is a need and there is a practice also of bifurcating budgets to saying long term and short term, because very often when pressures happen, suddenly, one dips into the other. So let's talk about malls. I mean, you said by and large for footfall generation, you said you do activities, those are probably the most difficult to measure, right? I mean, because how much do you spend on an activity, and how do you measure if that activity is actually worth it? Would you have otherwise also got footfalls? Is very big question, right? Do we do an activity in festive season, or do we do an activity not in festive season? These are questions that people have. So why don't you give us your view on this?
See, as specifically for malls, when you're catering to all the segment of people, starting from the kids to adults to the family and everything. So it becomes first itself is a big challenging to design a particular campaign, either being in the festivals or non-festival, sale time, all those things. But data is the key part which helps you to derive that these strategies, are these working towards it or they're not working towards it. And for us, it's clearly their numbers when we do these campaigns, that footfall has increased, the numbers which the average sales, those particular stores, which usually do on the regular days for maybe a weekday and a weekend. But now after this particular campaign, that has increased. Like, when we want to cater, we do a specific event which is totally youth oriented, like, we tie up with Sunburn and everything. We see a huge amount of new, youth coming into the mall, and, it becomes like a destination footfall coming in. So how does that affect? And that's how, when we see the numbers, for us.
For a moment, if you take Sunburn, that would have cost you something, right? I mean, I'm sure there would have been barters and stuff, but still it would have cost you a lot of effort
Yes.
and resources. So how do you say this resource was definitely worth it? This is something I'll repeat.
So it's like a balance of everything. You need, as I said, you need to cater to every single category within that. So what you do is you mix and match of all these categories which you want to, create that reason for them to come to the mall. And that's accordingly you do. So you mix a thing of like starting all your categories. Like if we are food heavy, so we do little more and more on food. And when we want to add a particular type of a thing, like we want to add corporate.
Sorry, that's an interesting point you raised about the balance. I'm sorry if I interrupted you. The point is, the mall has its own revenue stream, right? You have your parking, you have your food court, you have whatever. So how do you balance that with the need to boost the sales of retailers within you? Both are your responsibilities of, let's say, a mall management. So how do you balance these two?
See, many times we've spoken about this. Mall is not a commercial property where I'm just taking rent from it. If the retailers are not earning, there is no point for having any 100, 200, 300. So at the end of the day, whatever activities anybody plans, if the sale numbers of the center is not going, either it is in the form of an X, maybe, male segment, female segment, or the food segment. But that is the key which has to be there. And accordingly, everything is combined together.
Thank you. I think we'll quickly switch to the subject that you started, which is technology, but I'm not going to start with you. I'm going to start with Liberty Shoes. So what's the role that technology plays in footfall generation? I'm sure technology plays a big role in business, but in footfall generation, does technology play a role at all for you?
See, definitely there are a lot of technological products available now to do a more targeted campaign. Earlier, the marketing was very traditional, so that you were just praying and praying that the right customer. So today, I think you can do a lot of focused marketing, so where your consumer is, geotag your campaign. So there are various tools available. I would say we are experimenting with a lot of them, but if I was to say that I have got the best ROI from a particular campaign which is so digitally focused, I think we are still at the learning stage, at least for us. And I will be happy to know if people are able to deliver. A lot of technologies are speaking about great concepts, great products, but from last few years we have been experimenting. I would love to experiment, but I cannot really talk about a technological product which is giving the precise ROI. The ROIs are much higher than what you do on your large ticket campaigns, whether it is coming from your TV or print, while social media is doing. But still, I think there is a lot of learning and a lot of evolution in the technology which needs to happen to really find the targeting right.
So what about in a mall? What is the role technology plays? I mean, I've seen when we travel abroad in many malls, they have an app for the mall itself, which helps them in probably guiding people, in fact, nudging them to go in a particular direction towards a certain set of shops or towards a certain set of areas. So why is that we don't see much of that? Is there a tech resistance, or is it just the costs?
If I just have to answer the first part which you said, like when you go in abroad, you see a lot of apps and everything. In India, we already have, every mobile has thousands of apps. So people are not so ready to add an additional app. But yes, now with the technology, there are a lot amount of things which are measured in terms of uh, the footfall, the timing, the duration. Especially the duration becomes a very important element for a mall. How much time is he spending? If he's spending more than an average 3 hours, that means yes, he's doing a good amount of time shopping. If it is 5 hours, that means he's doing with the movie or something like that. So that definitely helps with it. And plus, the other big thing which is there is all the retailers, their the digital thing which they're doing is also again bringing that same crowd to us, and that's where the collaboration part comes in.
Okay, so we have about 4 minutes left. We'll probably discuss for 2 minutes and throw the floor open for questions. The last question that I have for each one of you is, so there is all of us have an offline avatar and an online avatar, and these have to exist. And we make efforts to drive traffic to the online as well, and we have to make efforts to drive to the offline as well. How do you balance these? Are these competing? Are these complementing? How do you make sure they are complementing? Would you like to start?
So I think there is definitely an overlap, and I think the lines are blurring between online and offline. But of course, you have different strategies for each channel. As much as you want, you would like to minimize that blurring, because again, you have very different campaigns for your online. You are completely targeting a sort of different audience, but consumer has become really smart, so that's something that we really have to counter, because what happens is that now you'll see a lot of consumers going into your store, looking at the product, checking online. If there is a higher discount online, you just buy and go. If there is a credit card offer or something. So I think that's the challenge. But we try and segment our consumer and try and target consumers in different segments. But also what happens is like how you're able to leverage your partners. So how you leverage a Myntra to cater to their audience, and which are not, let's say, a Triumph consumer. Similarly, how you leverage a Shopper
Are you
Stop.
able to push from online to offline? Are you able to do something in online which helps you build offline traffic?
Yeah, we do a lot of that through our D2C, not through marketplaces, because marketplaces will not allow you to do that so much as you try. But yeah, with our D2C, of course, like, I mentioned the store targeting campaigns and stuff. So I think that, of course, we can do. But I mean, leveraging partners, for example, a Shopper Stop, what we've been trying with our partners is also that, targeting cohorts like the Black member, for example, who hasn't purchased a Triumph, but has purchased an ethnic wear, for example. So I think these are the things that we try and do in terms of leveraging partner, their technology, and basically.
Got it. I'm going to ask this question to a legacy brand like Liberty. I'm sure you would have had your own challenges of balancing these two. Would you like to tell us one or two?
So definitely, both the departments were different profit centers and different cost centers. So they were almost competing with each other. As at a management level, you need to kind of unify them and talk. Like we always started with a different product category where the model was very discount oriented. And today, at least the knowledge I'm trying to bring together is how do you unify them and make it available across, so that you maximize on the convenience rather than losing margin on the discounting. So I think discounting is fading out and convenience is becoming the priority. And also I'm trying to be as realistic as possible, rather than try to give a very unrealistic expectation to the brand, and not keep up to that promise for long term. So I feel we need to see them in the same ecosystem where the consumer is one, and give them a choice which is seamless to buy online or offline depending on what he does. And I would like to place a bigger bet on offline customer, where they stay for the longer time with the brand, because online people switch. And I think I would like to keep a 80-20, where 80% should be offline and about 20% to be online.
That's very different from what most brands think. But anyway, that's a point of view of a legacy brand. We have only 1 minute. I'm sure we'll all want to contribute more to this discussion, but I think we're going to take a stop here and wait for questions. But the interesting part to sum up so far has been that the old school thought still remains, which is, you said consistency of campaigning, and second, you said the whole thing about the hygiene stuff and the promo stuff. And the third fact that it's product, experience, engagement. These are good lessons for all of us. And thank you so much for your contribution. Let's wait for questions. Yes, please. Can someone give her a mic?
Yeah, hi everyone. You all are like well-established brands in your own category. What is your piece of advice for a startup who's bootstrapped, has limited resources, and has to go through all this D2C to offline and spends and performance marketing, and everything, from A to
Is
Z.
it addressed to any one individual or is it everybody?
Anyone who wants to pick it up.
So as an advice I give to everyone, the first thing is know your consumer. That is the most important thing, that who your consumer is. For example, a consumer for Liberty will be very different from a consumer of Triumph and a slight different for a consumer of Madame. So for example, if my consumer is say young, youth, so 27 years of age, 24 years of age. So the way I interact with the consumer is very different than how a Liberty would interact. So for the first advice is you know your consumer and you start targeting what you want to do with the consumer in terms of product, in terms of how you want to market to the consumer.
How much budget do you think I should allocate? Being a startup,
all depends on
percentage wise.
I mean, it is very agnostic to every company that
So I think that's a question which is very, very difficult to answer for anybody to say what should be your budget. I think you will have to find that balance at some stage. In the interest of time, there's just time for one more question before we all go for lunch. One question? Either the panel has been super clear or super unclear because the question stopped there. Okay, so thank you so much for your time. I thoroughly enjoyed moderating this session and learning a lot from each one of you. Thanks for your time and thanks for your views.